Hello and welcome back to Project Communicator. This is episode 4. We're going to be going over the closet shelf that I'm building in my master bedroom in my home. I'm going to explain how I built it, my thought process, and some things I'd like to change or do differently if I were to build something similar to this again. So to start off, I built this closet shelving system with a really simple build that I found online and kind of curated to what I was looking for. I started off with these 1-inch pine boards, and I used pocket holes from these outside boards going into this back board. So I created this one. I can show you right here. I created this one U-shape form with pocket holes going from these outside boards into this backboard. And then I took this backboard, I found the stud in the wall. Unfortunately, there's only one stud in the wall. The other two land outside of the closet shelf on both sides. So unfortunately, I only have one stud. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue for this application. Obviously just holding t-shirts and clothes and that kind of thing. So I pre-drilled the holes into the pine, and then I used a 2.5-inch screw into the pine into the stud back there. Now after that I cut plywood boards, 1/2-inch plywood boards for the vertical pieces on the left and right side. And if I were to build it again, I would use 3/4 inch on the sides. And I think I would also put a board in the back that goes up and down and just kind of screw that into the studs. But anyway, so I took the format that I had here. It was just the U shape. I had a bunch of these U shapes going down. And then I set up the vertical plywood boards, and then I pre-drilled these holes, and I used 1-inch screws, and I leveled them like this. I went up and down and found it to be level, and then I screwed it into the plywood board. I also used a clamp to clamp this down from this attachment point here to kind of hold it together while I pushed on it and drove the 1-inch screws into the plywood. So, and these 1-inch boards here are 3/4 inch thick, and this is 1/2 inch thick. So with the 1-inch screws, I have about a 1/4 inch bite into this 1/2 inch plywood, which I think is going to be enough since I have 3 on each one. So that's kind of the main section here in the middle. And then I cut out of 3/4 inch plywood, and this is all maple plywood, by the way. I cut 3/4 inch shelf. The actual shelf is 24 inches wide by 18 inches deep. So I cut those up, and you'll see there's some pencil marks here, which I realized after building that the drywall is a little bit uneven. So my plan is to kind of sand it down here and flatten it so that it fits a little better. And then I'm going to use wood putty on the face of these shelves and try and smooth it out so that it accepts stain better and doesn't look like plywood. That's my plan anyway. We'll see if it works out. The other thing you'll notice is kind of this gap right here, and I got one on this bottom here. So the vertical boards are a little bit bowed, and I don't know if that's just because they're 1/2 inch or if that's just how the board was. But I need to figure out a way to attach this board to the shelf, and I don't know if I want to run screws from the outside of the plywood into the board, or if I should pull it and then run screws from the shelf board into the support boards. I'm still yet to figure that out. But moving on to the sides that I built here, I'll start with this side. I used the same thought process, except for I used 3/4 inch boards so that they would hopefully be able to support a little more weight in the back, or up top. And I also was able to find 3 studs. So there's 3 screws going in to this board. And then the thing that I did differently on this was that I didn't use pocket screws from this board into the backboard. I actually just screwed that right into the wall into one stud because that's all that I could find right there. So that's a little bit different than how I built the inside, and I did that because I had realized that the drywall is so bowed that it made it hard, especially if I wanted those side pieces to line up with the drywall. It would be too difficult if I used pocket screws and made a U shape or an L shape like this, like these. So, and then I just cut out of 3/4 inch plywood. I cut the shelf up top and it sits right on there. Obviously I have some stuff to finish up when it comes to the fit. And I did the same thing on the other side, but what I did differently was I cut one large board. I'll turn it a little bit so you can see a bit better. I cut one large board so that it would be a little bit stronger, and it would kind of have the support of this vertical board on it if I wanted to put some more heavier stuff on it. I'm not sure if that'll do anything, but the other reason I did that was so that I could access my attic or reach my access to my attic from this one side. Depending on how I attach it, if I screw it in or what, I could just lift it up out of the way and climb up in there. So I have a couple things to figure out yet. This is another thing. I think I'm just you can see there's a little bit of a gap between this board and kind of the edge of the vertical pieces. I don't know if I'm gonna use just one board here to kind of make it look like a finished box or what. But that's the progress I have, and I hope this episode was good. I hope I didn't use too many filler words, and I hope my voice tonality was good. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.